Hi, my name is Rod Cleef, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Cleef, and I'm thrilled you're here. And I know you're going to get tremendous value from the woman that we're interviewing today. Her name's Sharon Vornholt, and she's the owner of Innovative Property Solutions. And she's in Louisville, where we just gotten best and final on a large asset. I don't think we got it, but I love that submarket. And so she's an expert in marketing and branding for real estate investors. And she's also an expert in probate investing, which is a little unusual. We've never had that on the show here, but looking forward to getting into this. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Rod. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, let's have some fun today. So maybe you could give us a little more background. That was a very cursory bio. So maybe tell us a little bit about you and how you got into real estate and why you love it and so on and so forth.
Well, growing up, my dad was a general contractor, and being the oldest of four children, I was the best behaved. So I got to go traipse around with him on his job sites. And he did a lot of commercial buildings, commercial renovations, and such as that. So from an early age, I had an interest in real estate in general. And years down the road, I spent some years in the medical field. And then I had a home inspection company, which was an unlikely turn. But a realtor came in one day and said, "How would you like to go to a RIA meeting?" And I said something like, "What's a RIA meeting?" Because at that time, I didn't know that you could be involved in real estate if you were not a realtor. That was something that I didn't understand. 1998 is when I went to my first RIA meeting. And after that time, so it's been 20, almost 25 years, I've gone pretty much ever since then. So I worked part-time at real estate for about 10 years, and because I had another business. So I would do a rehab, then buy a rental. Went kind of a really slow path. And then in 2008, which was the best of times and the worst of times, I closed the home inspection business and went to real estate full-time. The problem was that nobody could get a mortgage. The buyers couldn't get a retail mortgage at that time. And I found myself with a few houses. So I thought, I really don't want to rehab these houses and be stuck with them for God knows how long. So I decided to wholesale them with 10 years experience at that time. I just called someone and said, "Do you want to buy these houses?" And they said, "Well, sure." And I thought, boy, that was easy. Well, we all know wholesaling's not that easy, but it worked out for me. And I just kind of became an accidental wholesaler in those years. Like you, I ended up selling properties. The properties, they got kind of upside down in that market, and
kind of upside down.
I got out with the skin on. I got out with the skin on my back.
Yeah, I didn't make it. Let me interrupt for 1 second, if you just allow me. I apologize, but I want to mention a couple of things. A lot of people may not even know what a RIA meeting is. So it's like a meetup group, guys. But this is back in the day before meetup or anything like that, where people would get together. Real Estate Investor Association is really what the word stands for, I believe. But it was really just a bunch of people interested in real estate getting together. So please continue. I just wanted to make sure they understood what that meant.
No, and I should have probably clarified that. We had a large group too here in Louisville, about 650, 700 people at the time. Wow. So we had a very large group, which after 2008 shrunk down to a few hundred because people just lost their shirts. But it was the perfect time to make that transition. And I've always loved real estate, but I realized along the way, if I had looked back on my own journey, and one thing that I failed to do, while I was really good at marketing, I was good at sourcing deals, I had failed to really adequately brand myself. And I look back on those wasted years, and you've got to find a way to be different from everybody else, because at the end of the day, Rod does what he does, and so do a whole bunch of other people. And if you're in the single family world, you're all buying houses. Same deal.
Right. No, exactly. Now, circling back to something you just said a minute ago, you said wholesaling. Everybody knows about wholesaling single family, and very few people do it in the multifamily space. So I put a post in my Facebook group for my warriors, which are my mentorship coaching students, and I said, "Who's made over 100,000 wholesaling a multifamily?" a dozen, and this was about almost a year ago, a dozen had made over 100,000. Two of them made close to $1 million wholesaling a property. And I know it's been a lot more since then. So, I will say this about wholesaling. I mean, there's some opportunity there, but you got to be able to find the deals. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, I think, today. But again, I know you're known for, and you've got a podcast as well. Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I think we're going to interview me at some point here in the very near future as well.
We are.
So that'll be fun. Let's get into the marketing and the branding, because, I know that you've been mostly focused on single family, but the reason I wanted you on the show is I know that they cross pollinate over to multifamily. And so, in fact, some of my most successful students are the ones that took some of these unique strategies like bulky mail and those yellow letters and things like that and used it in the multifamily space very successfully. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of your marketing? Well, maybe branding first. Start with branding strategies, and then we'll go into marketing.
Well, I think people confuse branding with solely the physical attributes. You think of Coca-Cola or any of the giant brands, it's the physical attributes. And with your brand, sure, they're important. You're going to need a good headshot. You need a logo. You need a consistent presence across all platforms. But at the end of the day, your brand is what people say about you when you walk out of the room. It's how they feel about you. If they say that Rod, he is a smart guy, he's trustworthy, time and time again, he says what he does, that's really your brand. Conversely, if you're the guy who maybe doesn't leave that feeling, or the gal who is known for the one who cuts corners, that ultimately is your brand. So it's the way people feel about you. It's their trust in the way they want to do business with you. And you can make an offer on a property. Doesn't matter if it's commercial, residential, doesn't matter. You do not have to necessarily have the lowest offer. You have to be the best branded and the most likable and the most trustworthy. And that really is your brand in a nutshell.
Yep. No, you said it. And it honestly, at a high level, the most important piece is integrity and follow through, but let me say this mechanically, just because it's silly for me to miss this opportunity. When you set up a brand, guys, there's a couple quick things you need to do. Okay. One is you need to find a name that makes sense. Now, in the multifamily space, most names end in capital or real estate or investments or equity, things like that. Like ours is CRE Equity Capital. So you need to check the name with the Secretary of State's office. Then you also need to go to uspto.gov, which is the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and see if the name's available. I had a student that didn't do that, and he got a cease and desist and had to change his name. So make sure that you do that. It's uspto.gov, and then go on GoDaddy and see if you can find a domain name that kind of ties into that brand name that you're coming up with. It may not be exactly like ours is CREE Capital instead of CRE Equity Capital. That was actually taken, believe it or not. So you've got to also do the domain name, and then you're ready to hang your shingle, and so just that was more mechanical. But you're right. Your brand is who you are and what you say and how you follow through and your integrity. And so no, that's a really great answer. So let's shuffle into marketing then. How do people find deals in this hot market?
Well, it's tough, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
All the new things are great. All of the tried and true old school things still work great. Direct mail still works great. A personalized direct mail. Nobody wants to get a postcard. If I'm sending Rod a postcard, I'm not going to say, "Hi, friend, I want to buy your house." Right. That's going to get like zero results. But I believe in marketing tailored to the person. Marketing, direct mail marketing comes down to you got your list is always the first thing. If you don't have a good list, whether you're marketing for multifamily or single family homes, your list has to be a tight, concise list. You need to be marketing to the right people. And then you have to say, what kind of a mail piece am I going to use? So you can use postcards in commercial. You can use postcards in most residential, with the exception of probates. These folks do not respond well to anything but a white computer-generated mail merge letter. It's a very time-sensitive time for them. So you need to send the right mail piece, and your message has to be consistent. The message to buy an apartment community would be very different than a message to buy a foreclosure. Say a single family foreclosure. So you have to do your mail piece, your message, and then your campaigns. You have to be consistent with your marketing, whatever that is. because in my world, 81% of your deals, not your calls, but your actual deals will come at or beyond the fifth mailing. You build up momentum. It's kind of like Darren Hardy said in his book, The Compound Effect. You build that momentum. But what is so curious is that your competition, 90% of your perceived competition will quit on or before the third mailing. Mm-hmm. So don't be discouraged if you are doing direct mail and they have 20 letters or 30 letters. But let's think about this for a minute. In my area, the MLS has thousands of people vying for the same property. So is there really a lot of competition if somebody gets 20 or 30 letters in the beginning? No, not really, because it's all about the follow-up. These people are going to stop doing that. They're not going to follow up. And it's been my experience that about 81% of your deals will come, 85% of your deals will come from follow-up after they've said no, in fact. Right. It's all about the follow-up.
Yeah. Let me interject a couple things, if I may, that are specific to the multifamily space. So if you're going to mail multifamily, guys, I would encourage you to actually, what you're going to find is most assets, commercial assets of 5 units or more, are owned in an entity, like an LLC, a limited partnership, a corporation, whatever. And if you mail to the registered agent of that entity, where's that mail going to end up? And so what I would encourage you to do is to actually break down each entity. And this is going to sound like a lot of work, and it is, but I'm going to tell you why it's not as bad as you think. Okay. So literally break down each entity, go to the Secretary of State's office, see where XYZ Trust or XYZ LLC, who the principals are, get their home addresses. Sometimes you can even get their phone numbers and mail them there. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you, me personally, the average response rate on mail is probably 0.5 to 1%. When I was doing some of the things I'm going to share real quick here with you about mailing, I was getting a 6 to 9% response rate. And I'm not exaggerating, 100 letters, 6 to 9 responses. So let me mention a couple quick things. Something you just said, Sharon, which is, it's got to be personalized. That envelope should be handwritten. If it's an envelope, the letter should have the owner's name and address at the top, and it should have the property address in the first line of the letter. You agree with that? You're right.
Yes.
And then you mentioned the list. Like I said, you're not going to, in the multifamily space, you're not going to mail every multifamily. I would encourage you to go after people that have owned ideally 20 plus years. If not, if that list is too small, and I'm going to tell you 20 plus years in a market like mine in Tampa, the Tampa MSA, metropolitan statistical area, you might have a few hundred max. Okay. So it's not thousands and thousands. So if they're 20 plus years, and if the list is too small, then go to 10 plus years. But the reason why is you have a much better opportunity for some seller financing if they've owned it a long time. But those are some of the key pieces. And then you mentioned the consistency. The consistency is critical. If you're not going to, remain consistent, don't even bother starting. Do you agree with me on that?
I
Sharon?
agree. You're throwing your money away.
Right.
And
right.
I tell people say, how long do you mail to someone? And for me, it's until I buy the house, someone else buys the house, or they say it's not a deal. Maybe there's just no deal there. Or they say, take you off the list. But I feel that way about commercial properties too, because I have a friend who bought a lot of self-storage units around a lake. He actually went around and visited these people, and they would say, well, I'm going to retire in 5 years or whatever. Fine. It's okay if I keep in touch with you. So he would send them a mail piece or something, maybe a catchy something in the mail every few months. And once a year, he would go visit these people. And guess what? Over time, he bought every one of those facilities as they retired. But that was because he did something that was different. He was not just the person who was a once and done person.
Well, see, I, one of the things I teach in my boot camps is, if you're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do, you'll always be a success. And that's a great example of it. I use my own example, which is knocking on doors of people in foreclosure. I mean, very few people do that, but I did it and bought about 500 houses that way back in the day. So, so the follow-up's critical. And again, if you're going to do multifamily, I wouldn't go over about 40, 50 doors. By the way, guys, I would just do a search for 5 to 50 units. And then again, try to find the people that have owned for a good bit. And then those are the ones you mail. And that's when the mail is super successful. Now, do you do outbound calls as well, Sharon?
We have done those in the past. It's not been a focus in my business. It's been more direct mail and those sorts of things. And then marketing in other ways. I have a friend whose podcast brings him all the deals he can get. So you can market yourself in subtle ways through your podcast, through building a brand, through getting known, speaking. If you are out and about and you speak at your local real estate meetings, or I go different places and talk about what I do, it's not my business, but I do it enough that it brings me deals all the time. Wow.
Now, see, and guys, one of the things another thing I teach in my boot camp is the different ways to create reach. We live in the greatest time on earth for creating reach. I mean, guys, my team got me on TikTok 4 months ago, and I couldn't spell TikTok 4 months ago. And now I've got videos that have been watched 700,000 times. It's insane. Of course, my wife does a bikini one, and she's got 1.5 million, like in 4 days. But you don't want to see me in a bikini. But the point is, the reach is so incredible to create reach right now. The podcast, my podcast is pushing 13 million downloads at this point, and it's funny. It's the reason that I started teaching. But Facebook groups, we've got a Facebook group. It's the largest multifamily Facebook group, and just by managing it, it's become extraordinary. There's 45,000 people in. By the way, if you're not in that group and you're listening to this, get in there, okay? Because there's a lot of amazing people in there that want the same thing you want. And it's called Multifamily Real Estate Rod Cleef. But and then there's Instagram, and there's Twitter, and there's LinkedIn is very good for commercial real estate because you can get investors there for sure. So there's just so many ways for you guys to create reach. And here's another thing. Let me mention this, and I don't want to monopolize the conversation here, but with meetup groups, even you can create your own. And what you do, if you're not an expert yet, is you bring in experts. You bring in people like me and Sharon here to talk. And just by being the host, you're perceived to have authority, like you know what you're doing. You just know how to ask the right questions, right? And so you can do that with a podcast. You can do that with a meetup group. You can do that with, YouTube videos. So there's just so many ways you can create reach in this incredible environment that we live in right now. You agree with me, Sharon?
Yeah, social media is huge. People completely underestimate the value of social media, and it will be the channel that's the best for you will vary. And I tell people, don't start with every channel in the beginning. Right. Start with a couple and then master that and then build out. And you've been able to do that successfully, but you didn't do everything all at once. Nope. You did a little bit at a time. But some of the best connections that I've ever made, people that have become friends, good friends, came from Facebook. It's crazy. The next thing you know, you're meeting them somewhere, you're having a meetup, then you're able to co-market or, promote their events, but you cannot even begin to realize the power of networking. You may get some good thing happen to you 5 years down the road. It may not happen today, but it all just builds and builds and builds.
Yeah. In fact, guys, this single family space, not as much as the multifamily space, but multifamily is absolutely a team sport, and networking is an absolute prerequisite to this business. Yep. And, so, which is why, my live events are so, I've got one, by the way, guys, coming up in July, the end of July, I'm thinking about 1,000 people there. And so incredible opportunity to network and meet people. And we actually even force that. But, we'll make you get up and meet other people. So I shouldn't have said that on the podcast. Because now they'll be like, oh shit, I'm not going. But the introverts. But the great thing about the business that we're in is, some of the most successful partnerships I've seen are an introverted, analytical person with an outgoing mouthpiece like Rod here, and Sharon, they're out there, not afraid to talk and meet people. And, and those are some of the best, most successful partnerships I've seen in my world, in the multifamily world. Oh God, I was going to say something about social and I forgot. Darn it!
You made me think of introvert too, because you would not know it, but I tell people I'm a fully recovered introvert. I used to be the person who would go look in the sea of 500 people at the RIA meeting, and I would go, okay, where's a safe chair with somebody I know? And you have to get out of that. You absolutely have to say, I'm going to go meet 2 people, 3 people, and you look up one day and you're a whole new person. I'll say that to all the introverts out there.
Yeah, yeah. You have to get uncomfortable, guys. The magnificent life of your dreams is just on the other side of a little discomfort. And I don't think I was an introvert. I was just so embarrassed, so afraid of being embarrassed or humiliated just because of some childhood experiences. And I just pushed through that stuff. But back to social for a minute. If you're going to do one of those things to create reach, there's two critical pieces to it. Okay. So regardless of the channel, and I would encourage you to pick the medium that you enjoy communicating in the most. If it's video, then do YouTube or do YouTube videos. If it's audio, maybe do an audio only podcast, although I would encourage you to do video as well, because you can cross-pollinate the content. But maybe it's writing and you do a blog. You've got a blog too, don't you, Sharon?
I do.
Louisville Gals real estate blog. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to laugh that we knew nothing about naming things in 2010.
What do you mean naming them? What do you mean?
The name, everybody is going, that's a terrible name. You know that. And I said at the time,
Louisville Gals Real Estate.
Real Estate.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's funny.
It's stuck. So
no, it's unique. Okay. And
it's
guys,
unique.
anytime you can be unique, you will stand out from the crowd. And I tell people this when they're going out and talking to brokers to try to get deals. The more unique you can be, the better chance you've got of being the person that ends up with the deal. But back to reach for 1 second. Two critical pieces. Okay. You can't put out crap. If you put out crap, you are crap. Okay. So you've got to put out good content. I stole that line from somebody else. But then the second thing is you have to be consistent. If you're going to do a podcast or a meetup group or on anything, don't think you're going to do it for a few months and stop. You are doing it for years. Okay. So make sure, first of all, it's something you enjoy. So it's a medium you enjoy. You're not going to be uncomfortable. And then secondly, recognize that, this business, both single family or multifamily, is not a get rich quick thing. It's to become super freaking wealthy over time thing. If you buy assets that cash flow and you hold on to them, but you're going to be doing it the rest of your life. And so, put that hat on and recognize that. And, I remember when I first started doing videos, in fact, I come across them sometimes and they're so freaking bad. Oh my God, they're bad. And
cringeworthy.
They're terrible. And my ability to communicate was just terrible. But the more you do it, repetition is the mother of skill, right? The more you do it, the more you push yourself, the better you become. So anyway, so Sharon, marketing and branding. We talked about mailing. You do mailing and social, it sounds like the most, and you do those RIA meetings as well. And those have pretty much transformed into meetups now, right? They use the meetup platform as well. In many cases,
our meeting is on the Meetup platform, but we have our own website, and
okay.
I mean, we still have 700, maybe 800 members here. That's built back up.
Wow.
Sadly, the women are still few. But I've seen a change.
Yeah, that is sad. I got to tell you, I've got some super successful women in my coaching program. I mean, rock stars, single moms that are just killing it. I mean, literally killing it. And they've created their own warrior. My mentorship students are called warriors. They've created their own warrior women's group. And at we had a warrior only event here in Sarasota, about 250 of my students, and there were about 50 of them got together, these women, and had breakfast and lunch together, and it was really just incredible to see. Well,
I think, and one thing you mentioned several times is about coaching, and I'd like to go on record as saying, if you're not getting coaching, you're just slowing yourself down. You can go faster and further and make more money with a coach. And I don't know anybody at any level that doesn't have a coach.
Yeah, and myself included. Me
too.
Coaches, masterminds that I belong to, and have for years, listen, Michael Jordan had 5 coaches. Okay. I mean, he had a relationship coach, a health coach, the head coach, Phil Jackson, the assistant coach, nutritional coach. And he's the best in the world. And he had 5 coaches. So, you're absolutely right. And, I know that you help people with the branding and marketing, as well as probate. So if you guys have an interest in that, definitely want to hit up Sharon. Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on the show, Sharon. This has been a lot of fun. Anything that you wish I would have asked you?
I don't think so. I think people just need to take the leap, whether it's in commercial, multifamily, single family, your first deal is by far the hardest, the most terrorizing. Once you get past that, it gets to be smooth sailing. I remember somebody saying to me one time, one day you'll buy a property and you'll never even look at it. And I went, nope, I'll never do that. And then fast forward a few years, and I did exactly that. Did it the new way. But you just have to get out there, be around like-minded people, have mentors, coaches. You can only get by at the free line so long. It's a great place to start. Start with Rod's podcast. If you're interested in what I do, you can listen to mine, but know that you're going to have to invest some money in your education and all of that.
No, you're absolutely right. And by the way, guys, on that note, if my boot camp's still $197 for 3 days of training without a big sales pitch. So it's kind of a duh. If you're interested in multifamily, it's drinking through a fire hose. But I want to circle back to something you just said about the first deal. That I see it with my students. It's the law of the first deal. It could be 6 months, 8 months, sometimes even a year. They haven't got a deal and they're moaning, and I'm motivating them and pushing them and everything else. And they get a deal. Next thing I know, they have 5. Like, what the heck just happened? That first deal is the hardest. It's the most stressful. It's the scariest. And then after, it's like, well, no big deal. And then you mentioned who you hang out with. You guys have heard me talk about this. Who you hang out with is who you become. And so many people default to, the people they went to school with, or the people they work with. And those people might be afraid of your success. They might be, jealous of it. They might be afraid of losing you. They might be afraid of feeling less than if you're successful. And so be very, very careful and proactive who you allow to influence you. And sometimes it's family. And I will tell you, love your family, but choose your peers. So, well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on, Sharon. It's been a hoot, and it's a pleasure to meet you as well. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Rod. It's a pleasure.
All right. Take care.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345, and we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345.